Good morning, Mothers Oatmeal Ministry. This is Pastor Precious Collins here, and we invite you, or we welcome you rather, to M.O.M S University. This is an initiative to help first-time parents to know why baby is crying, to know hygiene practices, to tips on breastfeeding, all those important things that maybe not necessarily common knowledge that we want to make sure you are educated on, moms and dads, okay? And then also, this can be a study resource for those of you studying to become lactation consultants, so you can listen to this audiobook while you're cleaning, while you're taking care of baby, so that you're ready to pass your exam, all right? So well wishes on that. Today's tips on breastfeeding are actually coming from the personal experiences of two moms who are part of our ministry. One is Evangelist Marguerite Powell, and the other one is Mrs. Tina Walker of Love Works Global Ministries. So I want to share with you some things that they shared with me for new moms. Okay, so these are tips from Mrs. Tina Walker. One of my favorite tips concerns sore nipples. Instead of buying expensive creams, if your nipples become sore or cracked from nursing, use your breast milk. Simply express a few drops by hand and apply to the cracked area. Allow it to air dry. That's all. You're healed. She says our Father already puts what we needed in the breast milk, and the baby doesn't get any residue from the creams. Okay, I did use a cream though called lanolin, and it's actually from sheep wool, I believe. So that was also another natural remedy, but that's an excellent tip, y'all. Just use your breast milk to help cure your cracked nipples. Okay, drink plenty of water, hydrate. Staying hydrated aids in production. She says if your milk supply is low or you can't produce a lot, nurse more. The more you nurse, the more milk is produced. She says be mindful of your diet when nursing. What you eat affects your baby, and some foods that you eat as a mom that may cause you gas will also cause your baby gas. So if you're eating broccoli, spicy foods, and beans, baby may be gassy as well. And just to build on that, if you do find baby is gassy, my sister in love, Sharon Bond, says use Milacon. And we did use Milacon, and that did help Micaiah a lot with gas. Okay. She also says be mindful, to avoid nipple confusion. Try to refrain from using pacifiers because it can be hard to wean if used past 3 months and will affect teeth development. Yes, our doctor has given us 3 years. That's our, so we're a little bit further along in our process, but that's her tip. Also, she says, avoid bottle nipples as much as possible during the first few months. If mom must pump milk and a bottle be given in mom's absence, use a nipple as close to natural nipple as possible. Yes, and now they actually have breast-like nipples for bottles now. I'm trying to remember the name of that one that we used. I see it over there in the kitchen. I might go grab it later, but just look for nipples that are breast-like as well. The only thing we ran into with that is that when we started adding oatmeal to the milk, sometimes the nipple was not wide enough to get the oatmeal through. So that's something to work through with your doctor. And we used the actual, I forget what they're called, but it's some type of feeding consultant to help with Micaiah's eating as well. Cabbage leaves can be used instead of medication to dry the milk. Use cabbage leaves like a nursing pad. Simply cover the breast and leaf with the leaf and cover with a bra, or just place the leaf inside of your bra. Wow, what great tips there from Mrs. Tina Walker, y'all. I love that. There's something else I wanted to add. She also said when you're ready to wean baby from nursing, wean from breast to a actual sippy cup. Just skip the bottle altogether. Go straight to sippy cup. And I like that right there, because sometimes that's an extra challenge for you if you go to a bottle to then have to let the bottle go, and that bottle becomes like their friend. And then, that's a struggle too. So I like that idea. Also, Evangelist Marguerite Powell said that her baby refused to nurse from her left breast, y'all. How about that? She said for 2 weeks. And then she finally went to her local Lentz Health Clinic. And then she says, I know breastfeeding is a challenge for the strong and loving mom who wants to give the best to her child. Finally, after 13 grueling hours, her baby finally accepted the milk from her left breast. So she went through that of her baby only wanting to nurse from one breast. And the nurse told her that the baby just preferred the smell and the taste of the milk from her right breast. So she even says that, her breast sides were different because of the baby not nursing from one of her breasts. But she said after her daughter started eating, she was relieved, but she learned patience through that process. Wow. So be persistent, work with your doctors. And I know it's a challenge, but there are people out there with personal experiences who can help you. Do not give up. If this is something that the Lord, has put on your heart to do, if it's in your heart to breastfeed your baby, do it, because there are so many benefits in every single drop. Even if you're not even producing a whole lot, every drop is so beneficial to your baby. Okay, so we're going to jump into our book for as long as Makai will allow us. If you hear Curious George in the background, she has had her breakfast and she has listened to Jack Hartman, See It, Say It, Sign It, her ABC. She's done some counting through YouTube. YouTube is such a great learning resource. And now she's watching Curious George while I do some reading. So again, this is a study resource for those of you getting ready to take your IBCLC exam. So please purchase the book Breastfeeding and Human Lactation Enhanced 5th edition if you would like to follow along. We are on page 16. Lactation, at the subtitle is Lactation Consultants in the Community. And it is now about 7 minutes into the video. Here we go. Got a little glare back there, y'all. Let's see if that works. Okay, let's do it. Father bless us. You're able. Okay. I like to use this to cover, this is something for your kids too, kind of cover the other lines that you're not reading until you get to that. And it helps your eyes. I don't know where my glasses are right now either. And it helps your eyes to focus. Okay. Breastfeeding is a public health imperative. And again, we're under lactation consultants in the community on page 16. It was identified by the U.S. Surgeon General in her 2011 call to action to support breastfeeding as the best sort of infant nutrition and immunologic protection, providing remarkable health benefits to mothers as well. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, 2011. The CDC's Division of Nutrition, Physical Activity, and Obesity is committed to increasing breastfeeding rates throughout the United States and to promoting and supporting optimal breastfeeding practices toward the ultimate goal of improving the public's health. The Baby-Friendly Hospital Initiative's 10 Steps to Successful Breastfeeding have been shown to increase breastfeeding initiation and duration. Step 10 says, foster the establishment of breastfeeding support groups and refer mothers to them on discharge from the hospital or birth center. Because of this heightened awareness of the importance of breastfeeding support, both access to highly skilled lactation care in the community and ongoing breastfeeding support for mothers are important. Women's preventative health care protections outlined in the 2010 Affordable Care Act are intended to provide at no out-of-pocket expense to U.S. women with health insurance, comprehensive lactation support and counseling by a trained provider during pregnancy and or in the postpartum period, and costs for renting breastfeeding equipment. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Human Resources and Services Administration. Paragraph 4. This community-based health care differs from hospital-based care in that the healthcare provider works with the mother over the long term throughout her pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum care. Thus, community-based healthcare workers have an advantage over those working in the hospital in that they see the mother and her family in their total environment. Someone who described this as seeing a whole movie, whereas in the hospital, the healthcare provider sees only one frame. Being in the family home gives a much wider perspective on the mother's needs that might not otherwise be apparent. Moreover, community-based services are organized around a system of interdisciplinary resources. A community healthcare nurse may work with low-income mothers who are eligible for many different programs of assistance besides breastfeeding support. Worksite lactation programs. Corporate lactation programs pay off. Women prefer to work at jobs where the breastfeeding woman is welcomed. Not only that, but breastfeeding mothers miss less work than mothers who are formula feeding. As a result, many corporate offices are becoming breastfeeding friendly, offering pumping rooms and multi-user pumps. Mothers working full-time spend less than 1 hour over the course of one workday expressing breast milk. The business case for breastfeeding, published by the Office on Women's Health 2008, is an excellent resource for employers and employees and is now available online. Medical clinics offices. A growing number of physicians are emphasizing breastfeeding in their practices. For some, this entails advocating for breastfeeding among patients in their general practice, family practice, obstetrics, or pediatrics, and providing staff to assist mothers to be successful. For other physicians, their general practice also becomes a consulting practice for more complex breastfeeding problems referred by a lactation consultants or other physicians. A small number of physicians are developing breastfeeding and lactation specialty clinics or programs either in an academic setting or as a private practice. The specialty clinics serve as a tertiary referral practices for complicated medical conditions of mother and baby and conditions that require prescription medications, or for minor procedures that may be indicated. Frenulotomy for tongue tie. Such tertiary centers often rely upon the close working relationships of the physicians with other non-physician lactation consultants. Physicians, especially pediatricians, realize the value of having staff who are knowledgeable about breastfeeding and can quickly and effectively work with breastfeeding women in their practice. Thus, many lactation consultants are employed in the medical office. The responsibilities include answering phones, calls from breastfeeding women, making home visits, working with the physician during postpartum visits to the medical office, and while making hospital rounds. The physician office usually pays a lactation consultant a salary. However, some IBCLCs may do their own billing, particularly if they are also advanced practice nurses. Professional lactation care and volunteer counselors. Breastfeeding support does not always require professional lactation care. The mother client will obtain the best and comprehensive care when the IBCLCs, volunteer breastfeeding support counselors, and other healthcare or program service providers all work together to provide support. While volunteer counselors and IBCLCs can offer general support to mothers, the scope of practice and clinical competencies for the IBCLC include skill at assessing mother and infant-related lactation issues, as well as an ethical duty to protect the breastfeeding relationship. IBCLC 2011-2012. Volunteer counselors are an excellent source of general support for mothers, offering preventative health care information pertaining to breastfeeding and lactation. They also spend more time giving long-term assistance as the child ages, whereas the IBCLC may see patients only in a clinic or hospital setting. It is not uncommon for a mother to continue to receive assistance and caring concern from a volunteer counselor throughout the entire lactation course. Only rarely will an IBCLC meet with a client regularly during the entire period. Instead, IBCLC contract may be sporadic, initiated by a client patient when a question or concern requiring specific clinical skills to assess or resolve a problem arises. Volunteer breastfeeding helpers and lactation specialists can assist one another. Thorley, 2000. The volunteer may have seen a mother in her own home and therefore can be able to alert the IBCLC working in the hospital, doctor's office, or clinic to elements of the mother's home life that may bear on her lactation course. The IBCLC, in turn, may serve as a referral source for persons with complex problems. When the IBCLC works in a medical center, Where ongoing research is part of this role, he or she helps generate new knowledge. Both the volunteer and the paid IBCLC can review materials written for patients and clients. The volunteer may be sensitive to ongoing issues that crop up after the mother has left the hospital, including those that the mother may choose not to mention to her healthcare providers. The IBCLC may be aware of aspects of the healthcare system that influence breastfeeding. Mentoring and networking. Mentoring plays a major role in any clinically based profession, especially a new specialty. A mentor, whether serving by informal or formal arrangement, is a trusted counselor, guide, or coach for the student intern and fills this role over a long period of time. Mentors nurture the novice's growth with advice, information, and support. Altman, 2010. The early pioneers in this relatively new field are now the teachers and mentors of novice IBCLCs. Educational programs with a clinical component are rare at this early stage in the evolution of LCs, and supervised clinical preceptorships are difficult to obtain. Shadowing experience, lactation specialist in one area, however, is an excellent way to hone clinical skills. Students in rural areas with fewer qualified mentors may need to travel to visit the work setting of a colleague for mentoring purposes. The IBCLC defines the staging of training that a student will achieve during specialized clinical mentoring: observation, supervised practice, and independent practice with mentor nearby. See Pathway 3 in the Plan Approval Guide 2013 at www.iblce.org. Nearby, where networking, whereby members of a group exchange information and get help in solving problems, is a valuable mechanism for gaining and sharing expertise. When a difficult case arises, IBCLCs can use local in-person gatherings, telephone, and email lists to gain insight from colleagues, while being careful, of course, to protect client-patient privacy. Networking can identify job openings, colleagues who will cover for one another, and referrals for clients needing equipment or specialized help. Networking also enhances advocacy efforts that seek to change systems and improve methods of providing care. Opportunities to communicate with others also abound on the internet, especially with social media networks, which are in the early 21st century a predominant means of fact gathering and communication. A forerunner of such interactions was LACNet, a worldwide breastfeeding email list with more than 3,000 subscribers in English and a sister list in German, LACNet-DE. Electronic communication is inexpensive and connects professionals in far-flung parts of the world with diverse cultural perspectives. Being able simply to vent and obtain sympathetic commiseration provides validation for the hard-working but perhaps isolated practitioner. The internet has allowed for an explosion in the availability of valuable evidence-based practice guiding websites, research articles, and other resources. Documentation. It is the responsibility of the lactation specialist, regardless of where he or she practices, to chart each contact with clients and to provide complete reports to referring physicians and other healthcare providers. IBCLC 2010, Williams 1995. Almost all record keeping involves using a computer. Thus, computer skills are a necessity for a healthcare worker. As in other healthcare practices, computers can be used to generate records, reports, and charts that do the following: provide other healthcare workers with valuable information, reflect quality of care delivered, quality assurance, continuous quality improvement, highlight sometimes subtle observations or findings, validate health services for insurance companies to determine reimbursement, provide data that can be used for research, serve as evidence in a legal dispute. In the hospital, the mother's and infant's charts are clinical records that contain information about the hospital stay and all contacts with everyone involved in their care. Because the mother and infant usually have separate charts, it is also necessary to double chart At the same time, care plans tend to be geared toward the mother because it is she who is taught and the baby who is the recipient of her learning. Wow. I like that line right there. It is she who is taught and the baby who is the recipient of the learning. I might have to use that in a sermon, y'all. Hold up. Okay. Healthcare. We're on page 19, y'all. Healthcare professionals use computers or smartphones to look up medical information or to document their interventions. Free and fee-based software applications, apps for coding, charting, and medical information are available online. The most commonly used methods of charting are narrative charting and problem-oriented charting. Flow sheets and standard care plans that are individualized are becoming more popular. However, as they reduce paperwork and save time and money. Narrative charting. Narrative documentation uses a diary or story format to document client care events. A simple paragraph describes the client's status and the care that was given. Narrative notes, sometimes called progress notes, are used less frequently now, owing to the adoption of flow sheets and clinical care plans that capture the routine aspects of care. Narrative notes, box 1-4, can be easily combined with flow sheets or any other client record. Problem-oriented charting. Charting based on a problem uses a structured problem list and logical format for each entry in the medical record. The format used in problem-oriented charting is called SOAP, S-O-A-P, or SOAPI, S-O-A-P-I-E method. Each letter stands for a different phase of the process. Subjective data, objective data, assessment, plan, interventions, and evaluation of care. Box 1-5. And then give some examples here in this figure, box 1-5, for example. Under subjective means what the mother tells you. For example, mom, CO, nipple pain, and not sure if baby is getting enough. Okay, I think CO is complained of. They have something in for objective. It's what Elsie saw and did, and information from a medical record. It's just interventions, education, mother return demonstration. Some examples here are P2, B2, mom, term infant, less than 48 hours. Okay, maternal pain, 8 out of 10. Baby is 8% below birth weight. Okay, and then they have another bullet under that, under objective. Baby latched with areola compression, rhythmic sucking, audible swallowing. And that's something too, to listen for your baby if your baby's swallowing. If it sounds like they're taking, like that sound, it's almost like listen for that. Listen to see if baby's swallowing, okay? So there's a lot of great information there on top of page 20. All right, moving on, we are reading, continuing on the bottom page 20, when the LC functions as a consultant, problem-oriented charting is more appropriate. In private practice, the completeness of reports also assists the referring healthcare worker to understand the how as well as the why of the LC's practice and methods. Reporting provides a database for all types of information, e.g., an increase in the number of referrals for a particular physician's practice. Early referrals may be one or two common problems, whereas tracking over an extended period of time may reveal that later referrals deal with a wider variety of problems. Electronic health records. A patient's lactation information is usually incorporated into existing information systems, IS, in clinics and hospitals. Lactation professionals need to work closely with IS technicians to make sure that the format employed for electronic healthcare records accommodates breastfeeding information, especially if mother-infant care is involved. Transition to such a system takes significant amounts of time and resources and often engenders a great deal of staff frustration. Each facility, outpatient lactation clinic, private lactation practice, medical office and hospital will have unique needs. The Cincinnati Children's Center for Breastfeeding Medicine developed a lactation-friendly electronic health record (EHR) and its pediatric facility, which has a breastfeeding clinic. At its pediatric facility. New forms specific to breastfeeding are 1, maternal history, 2, maternal exam, 3, infant feeding history, and 4, breastfeeding assessment. This organization's computer system includes electronic prescriptions, printed patient handouts, and telephone notes. List 2008. LCs will find the computer pages and drop-down lists in this article to be helpful for developing their own computerized records. And we're going to stop there. And when we come back, we'll start on page 21 with the subtitle, Clinical Care Plans. So I hope you enjoy your day. I really like this box 1-5. Here, example of the SOAP note, SOAP. And so I think I'll show you that if it will show clearly. Maybe you could take a screenshot, or I may have to take a screenshot for you. If you can purchase the book. I wish that was more clear for you. Can you screenshot that? Okay, maybe you can Google it, okay? But get the book. It's really good there. All right, so God bless you. We love you guys. Take care. Yeah, baby. You want to come say bye? Say bye-bye. Say love you. Mm-hmm.